Welcome to the Purposeful MD podcast. As a physician, you've sacrificed so much of your life for other people, your patients, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. What would it feel like to spend time doing what you enjoy and to live without guilt? I'm your host, Dr. Laura Sutton, a family physician, certified coach, and business owner. If you're a medical professional on a journey towards your most purposeful life, a life with more time and energy, and ultimately more joy, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the Purposeful MD podcast. I am delighted to be talking today with Dr. Susan Baumgartel. She is an internal medicine physician with over 30 years of clinical experience. In 2020, she launched Menopause Menu, which is a free informational website providing nourishing support for menopause and beyond. Love that. In 2021, she stepped away from direct patient care and founded a novel telemedicine business model, My MD Advocate. She uses her extensive medical experience and expertise to serve patients by providing medical consultation and advocacy support. She's an expert on multiple topics, including aging with intent, preventive care, menopause, chronic diseases, autoimmune conditions, and much more. She published her first book, The Menopause Menu, in 2023, which is an all-in-one gift book, medical guide, and recipe book for navigating menopause. Welcome, Dr. Baumgartel.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure and a treat to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So tell us about your story and your background and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. So actually, born in Seattle, raised in Ontario, Canada, came back for the rest. And my degree before medicine was in architecture and urban planning. So that was fun. And actually, I'm always kind of forever marrying art and medicine together. So that's always kind of a theme for me. Med school and residency was at University of Washington, Seattle. And I basically worked in a company that became a large company for 25 years, clinical medicine, full-time internal medicine. And then back about 2.5 years ago, peeled off, kind of pivoted, and along the way started my own business, which next month is celebrating its second anniversary. And it's My MD Advocate. And it's really a way that I felt I could better serve patients. I knew I wasn't ready to retire, but I thought, how can I still give back and care for people? And it was really exciting to develop this model so that I can really be there. It's a telemedicine-based platform, and I do medical consultation and advocacy work.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that so much. I was looking at your website and read a little bit about, and I'd love to hear this from you, how you were taking care of patients of all ages. And you kept hearing this common theme about women that were in this menopausal transition and were really struggling and didn't have the resources, didn't have the support that they felt like they needed. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah, the story, as anything in my life is always a story. It starts actually back in 2012 when I developed a program called Menu for Change, which was a weight management and wellness program. And I employed a lot of different professionals, including naturopathic doc, acupuncturists, nutritionists, exercise physiologists, psychologists. And we helped mostly women. There were a few men, but women who were wanting to work on weight management. And that ran for 7 years. It was just, my baby. And then I sunsetted that program for a number of reasons. Just really our big organization was being bought out, and I thought, the signs on the wall. And so that was kind of the stepping stone toward developing what I ended up calling my website, Menopause Menu. And that was really the culmination of, I guess, my entire career, thinking about women in particular, certainly women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, navigating this time period. And I just thought, gosh, there's something there. I could do something different. I could provide information. I could be of value to them. And so that was kind of the growth point for me developing my work, helping women in menopause.
I love that so much. I love that you saw this need that women were not feeling like they were heard in the medical community, and that you stepped in and said, "Hey, I can do something about this, and I can help these women."
Well, I even reflected, on my own experience, when I had a woman in the exam room for whatever purpose, and the question would come out about, well, I've had these night sweats, I don't know what to do, or I have this weight gain, and I'm sick of it, and I eat better, and I exercise, and how come it's right around my waist, and these frustrating kind of issues. And I realized, there wasn't like a perfect resource. It wasn't like if I sent it to a medical resource, they didn't have to look up every third word. It was ridiculous. And then we all know the other side of that coin, which is a snake oil salesman and the stuff that's just woo woo and just not even really, evidence based in any way. So I thought, gosh, there's got to be a better way to get information in a reasonable, succinct, accessible way that's not just them talking to their best friend or their mother or their aunt, or their colleague at work. And I also felt it was important, especially as I practice, to have space for them to be heard because, I know even from personal experience, and I've already been through menopause, when you go in, let's say for your annual, let's say you're just in there because, you hit your elbow and it hurts, there's no time. And our fast pace, boom, 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 your visits are so, your hands on the doorknob. And that's when they talk about the chest pain, right? The old doctor joke,
Right.
It's not a joke. So women, I think, are not allowed the time to be heard. Like when you think about it, in that circumstance, who's going to bring up their topic of vaginal dryness or
Right.
libido problems? I mean, it's first of all, it's a very sensitive, maybe embarrassing for some women issue. So getting this into the limelight, getting this into the forefront, allowing women the resources to learn some things and then feel confident talking about it or asking about it, I think is a mission that probably any doctor should have, and certainly anyone caring for women.
Yeah, so important, so important. It makes me think about, so I'm a family physician, and even in my training, and I'm curious your experience as well, we were not trained in women's health. We were trained in obstetrics and gynecology, how to deliver babies, how to evaluate postmenopausal bleeding, some of those types of things, how to work up irregular periods. But as far as when women got to menopause, there's just this black hole of information. And we know that so many of the studies on non-women's health related issues were done on men, studies on cardiac problems or just any type of medication that you can think about. The famous Ambien studies, right? They were not tested on women. And I remember back to my training, even thinking about chest pain, you brought up chest pain, that the symptoms that women most likely present with for cardiac issues were considered atypical, but we're half the population. So why are those atypical? They're just different. So I'm curious as to your perspective and how you really gained that knowledge that was missing, and at least in a lot of medical training when I was training 20, 25 years ago, it just wasn't there.
No, I completely agree with you. And I feel like part of my process has been experiential and, cumulative experience over time. I think also you have to have an interest in something or you have to be curious about it. One thing I was thinking about that actually happened fairly recently after I wrote my book called The Menopause Menu. I'm having these book groups and what book parties. Basically, like someone that knows me will say, "Hey, I want to get 10 women together and come over. If it's in town, I'll come over. If it's not, it's Zoom." And so this one party I went to, a really wonderful group of women. I only knew one. And, we're sitting around in a living room and everyone's kind of, curious about, ask me questions. And the theme that comes up that kind of blew me away, but didn't blow me away. This one woman said, almost very defiantly, like, I don't know about you doctors kind of, attitude. She said, well, I go in and I'm having these hot flashes and I think I have brain fog and I don't know what's going on. And I felt like I was gaslighted. I said, what do you mean by that? She said, well, my doctor said, well, I'm too young. I said, well, I didn't want to ask how old she was, but she said, well, I'm 43. It's like, well, and then she went further. And then she said, well, we talked about it some more. And it was a female doctor. She said to her, well, to be honest, I never had any training in how to diagnose or treat menopause. And that's when this woman said, I just had to go elsewhere. And guess what? Of course, she went to an alternative medicine, kind of arena. So I heard this more than once. And I thought like, wow, this is a disservice to women who are hopefully trusting or could be trusting their physician to listen to them and to think about what's going on, to be thoughtful and careful. But is it a system complaint? Yeah, probably is. The timing, who has time, or maybe an access issue. Was it that particular doctor? Hopefully not, but maybe it just wasn't, in the moment, it wasn't something that they could converse about. But it just got to me. I thought, wow, we've got to do a better job. And that was, it wasn't how I started my book, but that's kind of where I thought, like, wow, now I have this ability, this tool to kind of, help people learn more in a way that's not too scary with lots of difficult medical words, but not woo woo and kind of, junk science. So to me, it was important, again, to have women be able to have access to information.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I love that you're focusing on how to get information in the hands of women that are going through these symptoms and also to other clinicians, recognizing, like you said, that we don't really get this training that much unless you go into reproductive women's health or something along these lines, then we might not get this level of training. So how can you provide support to the clinicians taking care of these women too? I think that's a great mission.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
I didn't set out to just treat women, and actually in my own business, which is for patients in Washington State, I do a lot of different things. It's definitely not a menopause practice. But to me, that was very invigorating to know that I could kind of hopefully make a difference.
Yeah, yeah. And you talked a couple times about use the term snake oil, and I know there's a lot out there that is not evidence-based, and these women are really just trying to seek solutions and seek some relief, talking to their friends and colleagues and maybe family members about what they're going through and getting recommendations about things that are not evidence-based. And at the same time, there's a gap in what is evidence-based that we can offer to women. And so kind of makes sense that they're really looking for alternative treatments. So tell us what you're doing to focus on this evidence-based care.
Yeah, so I guess part of this also is like how do women get information, and when I say women, I don't mean just genetically. It's just anyone who identifies as a woman, anyone who's going through menopause, and in fact, men need to learn this too. It's so important because everyone knows someone who's going through menopause, but in our modern society, for right or for wrong, we get these little tidbits of information, sound bites. TikTok. It's a 5-second blip, and the information cycle is 24/7. People are scrolling on their phones on their toilet. And it's just no one's going to sit down and read a book. I should say read cover to cover, unless it's a fiction or something they're having to study for a class or a test. So how do you get information out in the right way? That's, I guess, in part how I developed my website, Menopause Menu, which people who go to it kind of say, oh, it's a blog, and there's blogs, there's videos, and there's recipes. But actually, under the information tab, there's 16 different sections, and that, interestingly, they correspond to the chapters of my book. And so let's say you have urinary difficulties, well, you can click on that and kind of get some videos or some recipes or some blogs, and of course in the book it's different. So getting it into I have never been us versus them, like science versus non-science. To me, it's all a blend, and it's really important. So yes, evidence-based, science-based medicine is absolutely essential, but it doesn't mean you can't talk about all the other holistic things that are important or valued or cherished by a patient. So if they want to consider acupuncture for hot flashes, well, just because the Menopause Society has said maybe it doesn't do a good job on vasomotor symptoms. Well, if this person feels good and better doing that, and indirectly maybe they have some changes that then reduces their hot flashes, bingo. So I like the fact that you can kind of put it all together, and it serves a lot of different people's needs.
Yeah, definitely that non-judgmental approach, which I really appreciate in what you're saying about, hey, if this works for you and it's not harmful for you, then certainly try it if this helps with your symptoms. So, yeah, just because, and we know this, just because there's no evidence means, or it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be helpful in some situations. So,
Yeah, and I took that approach as well with hormones, because that's a huge topic. You can't talk about menopause without talking about hormones. And when I wrote about this in my book, I thought, this is not going to be hormones versus not hormones, or like everything is solved by hormones, or don't take hormones. It's not going to be polarized. And so I wove that into a lot of the different topics. as of course it's an option. And for some women, it's the only option, pry that away from my cold dead hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
For other women, it's like, no, I never want to do that, And so it allows the space to look at all those options and not labeled as like, you got to be on it or don't ever take it. And that to me was important again, when you're giving, especially a woman who's busy and maybe they're midlife and they're balancing so many things. They want to have choices. They want to be educated, but they also want to have choices.
Yeah, definitely. So if a woman comes to you as part of your telehealth practice and is suffering from some of these symptoms, she's in her 40s, 50s, what do you do with her?
So I'll first just preface that my practice is not primary care, and so I don't prescribe, I don't treat or manage. I consult. So actually, I had a woman who reached through me through the North American, the Menopause Society website, found me. Turns out she was in Washington State. Yay! So I could see her, and she's been working with me every month. And initially, it was really managing her horrendous night sweats and hot flashes and just the brain fog and all that stuff. But then it gradually transitioned to, life journey, like her mother who was having issues, or just her job stress, and just, things with her kids, and just, in that way, it's almost like a medical coaching or medical, I call it consultation, but medical coaching. And so, yes, it's kind of with the menopause stuff in the background, but that's not just the focus. But there did come a point where I thought, you know what? Whoa, you really need to consider hormones for lots of reasons. We talked about those options. And I was able to, again, kind of advocate for her and help her connect with an OBGYN. And it really made a huge difference. So it's kind of partnering with someone and kind of peeling back all those layers, or so many layers, and then kind of deciding what's at the root. Is it just menopause? I shouldn't say just, but is it menopause, or are there other things that are factoring in? And I guess that's probably what any really good primary care doctor does all day long, right? You and I,
Right.
and so it's simplifying what we do, but it's also allowing the time for it. And I think that's the value when I kind of set out to do my own business, is that I had time, and that's just golden.
Right. Yeah, that's so important. And of course, being from a primary care background too, the lack of time that we are able to spend with our patients is really heartbreaking. It's very difficult. I'm lucky enough to be in an environment where I can spend a little bit more time with my patients. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's really helpful. We can dig
yeah,
into some of those quote unquote social issues you
yeah,
mentioned about taking care of older parents. A lot of women in this age group have older parents, and then we also have
yeah.
teenage kids. And so that sandwich generation, stresses of life, we're having trouble sleeping, and that just compounds everything. And so it's definitely multifaceted. And yes, I think a lot of primary care physicians either don't have the training, and so they don't ask those questions. It's not really typical to ask about, like you said, vaginal dryness, libido, urinary incontinence, and sometimes those things are embarrassing. And if a woman has had a negative experience with a clinician in the past, she's not likely to bring those things up.
Yeah. And then she'll go to her best friend or her aunt, or,
Right, right. And then that just
which is not
perpetuates.
wrong, but it's just not probably going to, solve her issue.
Right. Or she keeps it silent and then
Right.
suffers, and then that doesn't help anybody. So, yeah. What's been the best part of this journey for you?
Well, oh, gosh, so many good parts. I guess looking back, um, you know, I've been a physician for 30 years, and I feel like now that I've pivoted, I see this journey just extending for quite some time. It's not like up 65, retire. I just feel like this could go on in a really wonderful way. And then being a first time author, brand new experience, self-publishing is not for the faint of heart. But seeing where that's going, and the excitement that has for me with kind of extending my reach and really helping people in that way. I really just like this what someone told me recently is a portfolio career. I'd never heard of that term before,
I love
but
that.
one of my colleagues had said, "Oh, portfolio career," like, "Oh gosh, I'm going to use that." And it makes sense, because it's not just, and say just, but I was a physician for so many years. I still am, but now I'm kind of broadening that reach, and I find that I'm happier. I'm definitely more rested. I can attend to all the self care things that fell by the wayside for way too long. And that's a trifecta. That's good all around for everyone. And so I'm very excited by it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about your book. Tell us about that journey and how you got started and the self-publishing. I'd love to hear about all of that.
Yeah. So the Menopause Menu, gosh, it was a spinoff from the website. Of course, it's much more than that. It's an experiential book. So, I thought of like when I was a kid, my mother was an artist. And so you think about a coffee table book would be like Georgia O'Keeffe, or it could be Emily Carr and the Group of Seven, and just big book. You open it up in your lap. You can just turn anywhere. You just stare at the beautiful art and read something about it. And then 5 minutes later, you go. And so I thought, well, gosh, if I have something that's of that flavor, of that ilk, something that's beautiful, that people want to come back to, you don't have to read cover to cover in a certain order. Maybe you just want to look at a picture or something. So I started with that theme and really kind of developed it. And so there are 16 chapters, 16 major symptoms or issues of menopause. Obviously, there are more than that for menopause, but that helped kind of form the backbone of this book. With each chapter, you get a recipe. So that's really fun. And then I have kind of interspersed along with the really good, solid medical advice. I have lots of goodies like, poems or haiku or quotes from colleagues. There's even I made up a menopause menu bingo. That's kind of fun. And now there's the chapters are arranged like a fine dining restaurant. So, you come in, there's the entree, there's the introduction, which is just the beginning of the chapter. There's the amuse-bouche, it kind of tickles your appetite. Then there's the appetizer, there's the entree, there's the palate cleanser, and there's the dessert. Those are different sections of each chapter. And the dessert is kind of like what I'd say is the wild card. So it's like there's a lot of fun stuff. And chapter 2 is on night sweats, and there's like a blooper reel, which is really funny. And there's just kind of you can open that book, you can read for 5 minutes, and you can learn something, and then you can walk away and read it later. And so to me, it was just a fun creation project, and it was great to see it come alive.
That sounds lovely. And it sounds like it's really just perfect for what women in this age group really need. They're busy. They don't have time necessarily to sit and read a book cover to cover. And that sounds amazing.
Yeah. So now it's available on Amazon, of course. I'm just putting the finishing touches on the ebook, so that's coming out soon. I didn't have that first, and actually, I was wondering if I was going to do an ebook because it's so tactile and experiential. It's nice to actually hold the book. I'm probably a bit old-fashioned too, but ebook, it turns out it's going to be fine. There's lots of color, so it worked out well. It'll never be an audiobook. It wouldn't really fit for that. But I'm connecting with a lot of women, as I mentioned, book parties, which are fun. I've done a lot of local, bookstore and local regional events. And then I'm also kind of getting into this new phase where people who are having conferences or workshops or retreats or summits, maybe they want like a little glam bag or grab bag or kind of parting gift. And so that would be something that people are considering. So it's just, to me, it's an organic learning experience. I don't have a marketer or promoter, but I love that part too, because I get to meet so many different people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I love that so much. Well, Dr. Baumgartel, it's been so wonderful to talk to you. This has been amazing, and I am so glad that you're doing what you're doing and putting all this wonderful energy and knowledge out into the atmosphere, supporting women and supporting clinicians.
Well, it's a great journey, and I get to meet people like you along the way. So I feel very lucky. If people want to reach out, I'm reachable, and they can go to my mymdadvocate.com, and I have my phone number and my email address there. They can also get some fun free tidbits on my Menopause Menu website, and of course my book on Amazon. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I have a Facebook webpage, Menopause Menu. So. And God forbid I have a YouTube channel. It's not very active, but just put myself out there.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll provide all those links for our listeners. So thank you so much for being with us. It's been wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for listening to the Purposeful MD podcast. If you like what you hear, please rate and review the show. Please also visit my website, www.thepurposefulmd.com, for free downloads or to discuss working with me as your coach.